We're in the battle. Like, yeah, I knew that guy had my back, and I think that's a misconception in today's world. Is everybody, hey, let me get mine, let me just go play football, but you don't truly know the guys you're going to battle with.
First of all, let's backtrack and say, when did you decide you wanted to be a college athlete?
How do I fight it? How do I approach it? And so every day was a constant battle internally of how can I get through today.
And then tornado just picks up speed and you just keep going and going and going, because your body's reaction to everything you were going through is what all of us with intense anxiety and performance anxiety and just fear of failure, we all go through it. All right, here with my good friend, future brother-in-law, Collin Guggenheim. He is the running back and tight ends coach at Nicholls State University. And we're going to talk a little bit about mental toughness, resilience, discipline, kinds of things that he embodied as a player, but now as a coach. I'll kind of, introduce Collin a little bit in more detail. If you don't know him, John Curtis Christian, winningest program, most state championships, Louisiana, JT Curtis head coach. He's on the very brink of the all-time win record in high school football. And Collin was a four-year starter at quarterback for Coach JT and John Curtis, and he did it all. He was a guy that I watched as running an option offense. We ran the option, so I studied him in high school religiously, watching every game he played. And when his path led him back to Thibodeau, which we'll get to in a little bit, I just knew that I had to make an introduction, meet this guy, and I'm very, very thankful for it. And, getting closer to him, it's kind of amazing what he's been through. And, as this, interview series embodies mental toughness and, how to train it, how to work it, and how to use it as a professional, I think your story just embodies everything you could imagine in terms of, being that type of person. So, Colin will kind of go into the story a little bit. So you're a high school quarterback, you're an option quarterback, you're a four-year starter at the most decorated school in Louisiana in terms of high school football. So tell us about, your high school career from your standpoint of playing with that chip on your shoulder, taking it all the way to, pretty much that commitment to West Point, and then from there on.
Kind of got put in a really good position early on at Curtis. I was kind of in a fortunate role, basically as a seventh grader. So I'll never forget this. I'm in the spring of my seventh grade year, and at the time, that's before they changed all the rules, and they just said, hey, where Coach JT approached me and said, hey, look, I'd like you to just come out for spring football, kind of get your feet wet, kind of get a feel for the program and the speed of the game from a high school level. And I was like, I'm all for it. So that spring of my seventh grade year, I never forget, I went out and I did spring football with all the high schoolers. I was put in a great spot. I actually started the spring game that year as a seventh grader, and I'm thankful for it. I was nowhere near ready to start at that point in my life, but I got so much exposure at such a young age, playing with some really talented players like Garrett Wallow, who's a linebacker for Tennessee Titans right now. So just being around high caliber guys early on in my stage at Curtis was very helpful. And then kind of growing into that eighth grade year, I played eighth grade football, I played ninth grade football, I played JV football, and I dressed out varsity. So I was having 5-6 games a week, just dressing out. So a lot was put on my plate early, but I thought it made me ready for when I was a freshman to kind of step in and kind of take over as a starting quarterback, playing against some really, really good competition that freshman year. Never forget my first ever game starting at Curtis, playing against Landry Walker, playing against Keaton Thompson, who was the ESPN 300 quarterback, Tevin Bush, Devontae Jason, and just the environment, listening to the band, can't even hear you next to me if I was talking to you. So just super cool to kind of start off my high school career as a freshman in that setting and that environment. But that is just a testament to kind of Coach JT believing in me early at such a young age and kind of seeing what the future kind of held for me.
So let's reframe that for a second, because, let's really just dive into that, because Coach JT walks up to you as a seventh grader. Okay. I would say 99 out of 100 seventh graders would say, I don't know about this. I got to go talk to my parents. I can't really imagine doing that. What what was that voice in your head that kind of said, yeah, of course I want to do this. Like, how would you put that into words, your commitment to that?
I think part of that's kind of one, my upbringing, kind of the household I grew up in. My father being a college football player, he went to Curtis, and then my mother just being in law enforcement, just kind of the mindset of, never back down and kind of attacking any challenge that's brought to you. So I think that's kind of what the first thought was. And then when I went home and told my parents, I think my dad's like, man, it's an opportunity you can't pass up. Go for it. And for me, I had nothing to lose at that point. I mean, I'm a seventh grader,
Yeah.
eventually going into eighth grade. So it kind of was like, what can you lose? So that's kind of why I chose to dive right into it.
And that's probably one of the most important things about mental performance and sports psychology and just high performing individuals is you knew it would be a challenge, you knew it would be stressful, and you leaned into it. You leaned into it. Like Coach Ben Newman says, yeah, lean. I can't really say it on camera, but in a certain way, we say lean into that stress, lean into that adversity, and watch the person you become. So already in seventh grade, you're making a name for yourself, going playing the spring games and playing against these superstars. So right then and there, you kind of just reframe the whole situation. Um, all right, so now you go to Curtis. You're on the varsity. You're the starting quarterback. You essentially sophomore year. You played in the dome sophomore year, right? Yeah. So you lose the state championship. So you go from there to the next year. You're crowned state champion. You're the MVP. Talk about that process from the loss in the dome, the loss in the championship, the mindset of the team in the offseason, and how you guys reframe that loss to set you up for the next successful run.
The hardest part about that whole situation is you go out there and you play, the full game against a team that you know that you are capable of beating. And the hardest part is, and you know this as a coach, is just you're going back, you're watching a film, like, man, I wish I had that play back. I wish I had this one back. So breaking that film down when it was all said and done and having the same core guys come back the following year was really big in the process because there wasn't much turnover. There wasn't a lot of turnover in, starting positions. A lot of core guys were still here. So I think the mindset just going into that was I have to do whatever it takes to get us over that hump. Whatever it was, whether that was working a little bit extra hard in the summer, whether that was staying a little bit extra after practice late at night. Whatever that was, and the biggest thing is all the guys bought into it. And I think that's what kind of put us over that hump and finally sealing the deal because it was a lot because if you think about it, Curtis has been successful all these years in 2A and 3A and 4A, but that was the first time we've ever won in a 5A setting. So understanding what that took on a week in, week out basis because the Catholic League is tough. Like you go through that schedule, it's a gauntlet. It really is. So being able to keep the guys' morale high throughout the whole year, I think was the most challenging part because you don't really have those bye weeks or the weeks that I'm saying a cupcake game,
Right,
but
right.
you don't have that.
Every week is in and out of grind.
Exactly. So just making sure the guys are always on their P's and Q's, dotting their I's, crossing their T's, and that's what I think really helped us uh, for through that journey.
Did you guys go undefeated that year?
We did.
Okay, so the junior year was undefeated.
Yes.
So were there any close games to where it was like this was almost it? Like, because I would say if you had to bounce back from the loss and still overcome it, but you stayed consistent and you bought it every day, so y'all finished it. Y'all went through it.
Yeah, we went through it, and there was no games I thought at any point where I was worried. But I think that all played back into the off-season work. At no point, and I think there was a couple close ones, but no point where I was like, man, like this is it, like we're about to lose, or hey, our run's about to end. I mean, that whole team from the offensive side to the defensive side was just top to bottom. Those guys were awesome.
Mhm.
So I never once felt like
Mhm.
we don't have this.
Do you feel like that confidence came from more the off season up until summer ball and training, or was it from the preparation that you guys put into from Saturday to Thursday?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think a lot of it that people take for granted is the chemistry aspect of that. So understanding your guys, not only from a football standpoint, but just from a personal life standpoint. Like I remember that year with those guys, we did a bunch of things over the summer, like whether it was at my house, whether it was somebody else's house, where we got to know each other on a more personal level.
Yeah.
Which that way, when we were in the thick of it, we were in the battle, like, yeah, I knew that guy had my back. And I think that's a misconception in today's world is everybody, hey, let me get mine, let me just go play football, but you don't truly know the guys you're going to battle with
Right.
day in and day out. And I thought that played a huge part into that.
Because the outside looking in, I mean, you got these superstars all over Kurtz's team. So you think everybody's just kind of doing their thing, train with whoever they're training with, and go on and play to the next level. But really, you guys are closer than anything, and that's saying your culture, your leadership, and your teamwork really led to your confidence building more than any talent, any working out practice you could imagine. So
That, and I think too, like people don't realize this either, but like Curtis, we have 350 kids in the whole school. So I mean, it's two hallways. So we see each other every day, every hour. So it's not like, you're in a big school with 1,500 kids and you don't see them until you get to practice. So all those little things when you add them all up, I think play a huge part into them.
All right, so let's shift a little bit. So now you're a state champion, you're MVP. So now it's going into your senior year. Of course, you want to repeat, but at the same time, now it's time to start getting serious about college ball because you know that's your goal. You know that you've set that in stone. First of all, let's backtrack and say, when did you decide you want to be a college athlete?
Oh, I think ever since growing up, I mean, every kid wants to. I'm saying following their dad's footsteps, right? My dad was a college football player at Iowa State. Went to John Curtis. So ever since I was a little boy, I knew I always wanted to play at the next level. Every kid's dream is to play in the NFL or the MLB, but for me, I knew. I think the first time I put the pads on, I was 7 years old. So from then on, that was the goal. That was the dream. I wasn't as big being that young, but that's when it all started. So.
Mm-hmm. So you're in your senior year. Let's talk about recruiting. Let's talk about your options. Let's talk about the added stress that it may have put on you, just worrying about it or not worrying about it, how it impacted you as a senior leading into, your season, and then ultimately knowing that signing day is a month or two after your last game.
So for me, it was a unique situation because I started getting recruited my junior year, but I was always that guy that was just not tall enough or just not fast enough. Or, hey, man, you're a quarterback, but you're in a triple option system. So are you really a quarterback? Are you not? And I always got a lot of traction simply, I think, because of the school I went to. And just because of the success I had at such a young age, doing it consistently against really good competition. So I always had interest, but a lot of teams never wanted to extend that offer or really give me that opportunity to play. So I never forget, right after the state championship game my junior year, that's when I got a call from Coach Rebo at Nicholls State, and he offered me a scholarship. And that was the first team that truly believed in me.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I at least had something secure that I could go play at the next level. And throughout that whole summer and even going into the beginning of fall camp, I took some visits. I had 4 offers. I had Nicholls State, I had Lamar, and then I had Colgate, which is an Ivy League school up north. They play in the Patriot League, and then I had West Point and I had Army. So I did my due diligence. I went and visited all of them. But for me to make another run, and this is just kind of me not being as selfish as some college guys would be or high school guys, I committed before the season started my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew where I was playing before then because I wanted to fully focus on the team going into the year. And all of our guys did that. So the big name guys of the year for us was Corey Wren.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, he committed to Florida State. Angelo Anderson committed to Tulane. So all the big guys, we committed before the season even started because we wanted to be all in for that. But it did add its stress because I didn't know where I was going for a long time. I didn't because you get pulled one way. Oh, you're not good enough. And then the next one tells you are, but might not be at running back. So, or might be not be at quarterback. And some people wanted to offer me to play defense. And it's just a lot that you have to juggle while still having to maintain, the team and learning the playbook still and understanding the schemes. Because at the end of the day, you're a high school kid. You're still growing. You're still maturing. You're still developing. So that was the fun, the good, and the bad of the whole process. So,
and I mean, when we look at our mental performance, programming and coaching, like when you break it down, like, focus is a major part of it. Commitment's a major part of it. So your focus was always on the present. You couldn't worry about, college, go play, getting recruited more. Like you had a team and you guys had a goal and you set that goal and you knew that you wanted to take every opportunity you could to make the team successful. And to me, I think that's what embodies mental toughness. Like what kids are able to say that and be mature about it enough to say, look, let's commit before, let's get it out the way. And now I'm just gonna focus on every single day, one day at a time, moving forward, accomplishing the goals that we want to achieve. So, you know, when you look at things, it's not this intricate process of, doing these crazy things to build mental toughness. It's just trusting yourself, being confident, and, establishing your focus and having a plan that leads you to success. I mean, it really is. So you guys did everything. You went top to bottom and, your preparation built your confidence. All right. So now you're at West Point and this is June of 2020. All right. So January 21, you're at Nicholls State. All right. So talk about that whole process from the mental side of it, from boot camp to getting to West Point to essentially the decisions that you made and had to, account for when you ended up going back to Nicholls.
So, like I said earlier, a lot of it was a culture shock. I go from being a city kid to now I'm in the military, right? I'm in it. I have to learn that. I have to learn how to shoot guns. I have to learn how to, polish your boots. But just you get a whole different appreciation for what it is. And for me, I never forget. I get there the first day, and yeah, everybody has masks, but I saw the drill sergeant yelling at me, getting off the bus and all. So a lot of that, you get a whole different perspective, and it is different. And so for me, the biggest part is how do I fight through this? This is the first time in my life where something I had no idea about, and now I have to fight it. And so, how do I fight it? How do I approach it? And so, every day was a constant battle internally of how can I get through today? And I think that's part of the whole military's idea, right? And the biggest thing that I found of it is they find ways to break you because they want you to start on a clean slate and then build you back up. So the biggest thing that I learned during my time there was I found out who I was as a person because I thought I had it all figured out. My whole life, I had a plan, I had it structured, I knew exactly what I wanted. Then for the first time, it was completely different. And so that was hard for me because there's a lot of nights where you're sitting there in the pitch black and it's just you and your thoughts. You have nothing else. You don't have your phone. In today's society, that's a huge thing. So you don't have your phone for that 2.5 to 3 months. The only way you're communicating with your family is through letters, maybe once a week if you're lucky. Sometimes it's once every 2 weeks. So just a lot of mental battles internally that you had to fight. And a lot of it, people don't realize either, but a lot of it is real world stuff that you would never think would happen. So like, I'll never forget, I'm in a tourniquet brief. So we're learning how to apply tourniquets to people. And a job in the military is to film the war, just like you have filmers for football, right? They film war. So I'm a city kid sitting in this brief watching, people die, get shot. How do you apply that stuff? And for me, that was different. I didn't know how to handle that. And the biggest part for me was I didn't know all of that was entailed with it, right? But it allowed me to have a better appreciation for what it was.
Yeah.
And so I went through all that, went through the boot camp process, and I got to do a lot of cool things. I tell everybody this: if you have the opportunity to go to a military institution, do it. Do it because it's a once in a lifetime experience. I got to shoot up every gun you can think of. I got to jump out of helicopters. But on the flip side too, right? You got to wake up at 4:30 every morning. It's structured. It's disciplined. You're running. You're doing all these different things just to build you into what they want you to be. And coming back home, it made me have a whole different appreciation for that side of it. So I'll never forget the first thing I came home, I hugged my mom and said, I get it. I get everything you go through now. I promise you. I said, as a kid, I didn't, but I get it. I understand you just being in law enforcement. Like, I understand it. But coming back home, like, I was lost. I really was. And a lot of people who were close to me knew that. Like, when I came home, I was broken. I was. And it's no knock on West Point. It's no knock on any of those guys because I love the football side of it. I did.
Right.
I went in there, I killed fall camp I loved it, but I was internally broken.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first time in my life, I didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
And I was lost. And so when I came back in the fall, decided to come back home, figured the military stuff just wasn't for me. You get a 2-year grace period, so I come back home and I didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't. My mom will tell you there's long nights where I'm sitting at home crying, just didn't have no direction in life, and I didn't know what my life would be. I really didn't. And so I was fortunate enough that word got kind of around that I was back home, that I decided to get out of West Point, and I had some schools offer me some football scholarships throughout the Southland. And then that's when the whole loyalty stuff kind of comes back into play where Coach Rebo was my first offer. So I never forget, they reached out to me and said, Coach, you're my first offer. Hey, this is kind of what I need to help me with my life right now. And if you want the best version of me to get back, this is what I need. He said, Collin, no problem. Here's the papers. And I said, all right, give me the pen, let's sign. And so that's kind of how the full circle, it all kind of happened, me coming back to Thibodeau. And I've talked about this multiple times in my interviews, but if I didn't have Thibodeau, I don't know who I would be today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, because I was that lost.
Yeah.
And that kind of was the whole reason I came back to Thibodeau.
What you've gone through is what I like to call the tornado, right? So it's like when it just starts and then the tornado just picks up speed and you just keep going and going and going because your body's reaction to everything you were going through is what all of us with intense anxiety and performance anxiety and just fear of failure, we all go through it. And, that's where we build resilience because how you come out of that is out of the tornado is what makes or breaks you. And, I can remember like that we talked about, we were 9-0 going to play a quality opponent to go 10-0 for the first time in 30 years. I'm the offensive coordinator. We're scoring 40 points a game. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I'm in my kitchen and I can't breathe, having a panic attack because it just kept stacking and stacking and stacking. It was this tornado that I just couldn't get out of. And it's like, what is going on here? And, we got through the game and I called the plays and we won by, I think 8 points and it was a nail biter. But that weekend it was like, all right, it's time to reset. Like, where do I go from here? And you went through it. And, like you said, that's what makes or breaks us and defines us. And that's what resilience is. But you had built up enough toughness to come out of it ahead, whereas so many people stay lost like that for so long. And it's like, what's it going to take for you to ask for the help? What's it going to take for you to go down the mental performance coaching route? Or what's it going to take for you to reach out to an MP coach and say, look, I just want to get my life straight. I want to get back in order. I'm in a huge slump. Like, how do I get out? So, it's so common and so, just the same concept of this tornado over and over again for all these athletes and coaches. So now we fast forward, you start off in this COVID season, right? You're redshirted, right? You won one? Okay, so you're redshirted now. So now you're going from literally 7th grade spring of varsity football at Curtis to now for the first time in 5 years, you haven't played in the fall and now you're not playing in the spring. So talk about the adjustment from playing football religiously from 7th grade on, really from you're 7 years old, but varsity high competitive football to now you're not. So what was that like?
It was tough. I've signed here as a quarterback. So when I came from West Point, I signed in Nicholls as a quarterback, and I was 5th on the depth chart. I was 505, and kind of, all right, this is new. I knew coverages and all, but like I had to learn football from a different perspective, moving from a triple option offense to a spread offense now, right? So a lot of it was new to me, and then will never forget this. I had a little shoulder injury, and Coach Rebo was like, "Hey, look, I know you can't throw for about a month, but you want to like move to linebacker?" And I was like, "No, not really. They got an all-American offensive lineman that I don't want blocking me." I said, "Let me try running back." So that COVID year, I transitioned to running back, and I was 8th on the depth chart. So like you said, the first time in my life, I haven't played football and I'm just kind of going through the motions and just trying to find my way. And kind of all of that kind of led back to kind of the whole army stuff. Like I never thought of how important all that was until I was put in that position afterwards. And that kind of led to stacking the days, getting through the days. How can I win my small battles, right? So that's kind of what my mindset was going into that is let me win my small battles and then let me see what position I can put myself in down the road. And that's kind of how I approached that whole situation from there.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it with this mechanism too, is um, Coach Ted Rabb, who's the new sports performance coach or director of sports performance for the Saints. He was VP of the Eagles. He just came in. Now he's at the Saints, 45 miles away. So I'm very thankful to have him. But in his book, Beyond Comfort, he talks about, telescope vision to where, when you get into an adverse situation, like you were an eighth on the depth chart, okay, you zoomed out, you use your telescope to zoom out and say, okay, wait, time out. What's the situation here? What can I control and what don't I have control over? And literally, here you are, signed, sealed, delivered with Nicholls. So all you can control is what you do every single day. And like you said, you stack the dates, you stack the small wins, you do the extra film, you do the extra weight session, you get the extra cardio in. And before you know it, the success comes. And then what's more important was what I love what Coach Newman says is you weren't seduced by success. Once you got through a little success and then all of a sudden you were number 7, you're number 6, number 5, number 4, and you didn't say, well, I deserve a break. I deserve time off. I deserve, I've made it to the point where I'm going up on the depth chart. The coaches are trusting me. Like, no, you said I still have a chip on my shoulder. Like I got business to finish. So talk about that process from essentially that spring redshirt year all the way to was it spring of 22? You're back playing ball, or is it fall of 21?
Fall of 20.
I'm sorry, fall of 21. You're back playing ball. So walk us through getting on the field again.
Yeah, so for me the biggest part was finding ways to be valuable. So I always told myself like how can I create value for me just to make the bus. So my goal was, hey, I want to make the bus. So I set that as my first goal. I'm gonna make the bus. I'll play every special teams. I don't care. Let me just figure it out. So that's kind of how I approached it in that spring, and then moving into the fall. Some guys graduate, some guys don't come back. So then I worked my way up to fourth on the depth chart in the fall. And same thing. Hey, I made the bus because I created value. I knew the playbook. I knew what I was doing, and I knew everything was special teams. So I'm not saying hadn't taken me, but it created value to me to make the bus.
And it was trust. Once they trusted you, it just worked itself out.
Exactly. So that fall season, because that COVID year didn't count towards anybody's eligibility, the fall season I was still going to redshirt. I was going to be a traveling redshirt. We're going to play in 4 games and then shut it down and then kind of move on from there. And then it all kind of happened super quick where the starter goes down with an MCL. The same game, the backup has a concussion. So I go from 4th to 2 in a matter of 10 minutes. And then at the time, the third team running back, who's now the starter, he was my high school running back when we played back in 2018. And so he was a smaller guy, and then I was a bigger guy. So I go from not playing at all to now I'm getting meaningful snaps on offense just because I was that bigger guy, that bruiser guy, and we had a scat guy before. So transition a little bit forward, the next game, he breaks his leg. So I go from, in a matter of a week, I go from 4th to 1 like that. And so I was like, oh, snap, here we go. And this also helped too. And I don't give him enough credit. I really don't. No son wants to ever listen really to their dad. But my dad always said, you're going to get your chance at some point. He said, when it will happen, I have no idea, son. But it will happen at some point. When you do get the chance, don't give him reason to take you out.
Yeah.
And from there, the rest is kind of history, and that's kind of how it happened really quick.
I remember, reading Drew Brees' book and him talking about when he went battle out with Doug Flutie for the Chargers. The first thing Flutie told Brees, with Brees was his backup, was, don't ever let your backup see the field. And he was like, what? He said, your job is to make sure that your backup never sees the field. And he said, because otherwise, your job, you lost. It's over. And that was really powerful. And, like you said, I mean, how much are we seeing this today that The second you're not on that depth chart, or the second that you position switch, you turn the TV on, you see it's portal time. How do you feel about this whole portal situation with, players not really responding to adversity that way and just kind of copping out saying, I'm out of here?
I think it kind of sucks, to be honest. I'm an old school guy, so I'm the kind of guy that I'm just thankful that I get a chance to get a good college education and get to go play football. And I think that's what is misleading in today's not only college football but society is it allows guys to take the easy way out. And I think that's what's really frustrating for me, especially now being a coach in college. It's hard to see that happen on a daily basis. And it's just, hey, oh, I didn't get my way, or let me get in the portal. And then somebody else is gonna pick me up. And then, oh, don't get my way there, let me go somewhere else. So I always take football and try to apply it to life. And it's such a misconception on this transfer portal on how life will work. And I think it's really hurting the younger generation for when football does end and they have to go face the real world and get a job. And how do they fight through those situations? Because you're always going to revert on your old habits.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my take on the portal. I get there's a place for it, just don't know if it's getting used right.
Yeah, I'm with you. But so same thing with the high school guys. If there's ever a situation where there's a complaint, or we don't feel like doing this, or coach, we got a kind of down week this week. Why are we doing ball security again? And that's probably when I have my most heated moments, because I say, "Whoa, time out, time out, time out." And me having Lucy at 3 and Benjamin at 1, I said, "Time out." When you wake up and hear the cry at 2 a.m. and you don't feel like feeding your son and you don't feel like feeding your daughter, what do you think's going to happen when you go back to sleep? They're going to keep crying. They're going to be hungrier, and they're going to cry louder until you go give them that satisfaction that they need and feed them and give them the means to survive. So you got to learn now that you got to get uncomfortable quickly and do things you don't want to do, because no matter what you do, there's going to be situations where you better find a way out of a rut or adversity that you're in. And I can't say that enough. And I get fired up about it, because what ultimate lesson do we have about life and overcoming adversity than playing football? My God, every play you get smacked in the face on one play. And if you say, oh, man, that hurt, I'm out, you miss an opportunity to hit that A gap on cutback, and then boom, it's off to the races. So, speaking of off to the races, we can't go without saying it, but you're a Louisiana guy. You grow up in Louisiana. You're a high school football star. You're playing at Nicholls State, Division I FCS, but you had a circle on your calendar. You're going to Tiger Stadium senior year. Okay. Now LSU is tough to play, and but every kid in Louisiana that plays high school football dreams of being in Tiger Stadium. And you go over there and you put on easily one of the best performances against the Tigers, much less as a running back against the Tigers, the entire year. Like, if you even look at the last 10 years, you could probably stack you up with the likes of all the greats at Alabama, all the greats at Auburn. All these guys. So what was your mindset leading up, pulling up, going into Tiger Stadium, and then on top of that, just absolutely dominating, running for 145 yards, 2 touchdowns, not to mention a 67-yard touchdown to just set the tone for the third quarter, right? Walk us through that.
I soaked up that whole journey. For me, it was icing on the cake of kind of everything I've been through. From a little kid to now my senior year, I know, the end is coming, right? So my approach into it was I just wanted to give the people of Louisiana something that they wouldn't forget. Now, did I think it would be that big of a game for me? No, I didn't. But I wanted people to leave that day saying, man, that guy plays the right way. He's done everything the right way. I want that guy on my side. And that's all I wanted to accomplish from that. That's it. I didn't expect the 145. I didn't expect the 2 touchdowns. I didn't expect a long run. I just wanted people to remember me saying that guy does it the right way. And for me growing up, you go to the games, you see it all. You're in the stands singing, calling a Baton Rouge and everything. So my whole approach to that was to soak it all in. I remember I've said this in other interviews. My good buddy Evan Roussel, the center. We're sitting going into the fourth quarter and they're playing Call Baton Rouge and kind of take a step back and I'm like, you Roos, like, man, soak it all in. Like, it's like, what you mean? I'm like, listen, don't listen to the play call, listen to the crowd, and it's just the whole atmosphere was so cool from in the visitor locker room to you walk in the field, you see an empty Tiger Stadium, which I've never seen before. The field looked so small, and then we were fortunate to play in the 100th year
Yeah.
of LSU football, so it was a home opener, so it was a sold out crowd. It really was. Like I couldn't hear you next to me
Yeah.
at all, no
I
matter.
was there.
So
It's packed.
so it just was super cool. And for me, that was like I'm saying my NFL moment, but that was my next level moment was, hey, you know what, Goog, like everything you've done in your life, everything you've been through from when you were little to West Point to you coming to Thibodeau to moving to running back to being the 18 guy to now you're the guy, like it just, it reassured me that I did everything that I was supposed to do, and it all happened for a reason. And that's kind of that whole memory for me and everything.
I mean, knowing you, I mean, yeah, that's obviously the outcome you'd want. And of course, you wanted the team win. But at the same time, like, even if you didn't have that kind of game, like, knowing that you put everything into it and that whole process you went through and, appreciating your process, like, that obviously, either way you would have been happy, because you went out there and you would have given it everything no matter what. But that was a situation where your outcome was just absolute icing on the cake. So it was unbelievable to watch, man. So, all right. So we'll kind of jump into the rest of your senior year. I mean, this is where you really start saying, wow, this guy's maybe kind of crazy, talking about your injuries. I mean, uh, what college kid at 23 years old tells the doctor, hey, look, I don't care what it takes, I'm finishing out. You're going to have to drag me off the field. But talk about how the injuries kind of piled up and, the mindset you had of playing through it and practice and just kind of have a weight on you for your senior year and your final chance to play college football.
Yeah, so kind of backtracking a little bit. So that freshman year, when all the success did come, that first play where I was a starter, I actually tore my labrum and my bicep that year. And so kind of part of the whole mindset of not letting, you know, not giving them a reason to take you out, right? So I tear my labrum bicep, played the rest of the year with that. And then that senior year, it was week 5, so it was Southern. We last played the game. I tear my meniscus, I tear my PCL, and I fracture my kneecap in week 5. And with the new college rule, it's, once you play in 4 games, you can't get your medical red shirt. You can't normal red shirt. So it was kind of like, hey, good career, nice job, you're done. Or, hey, you can try to play through it, but really don't recommend it. And for me, it was not about myself, but more the people I was playing for. And that's kind of how I've always approached my career and how I approach playing the game is I always wanted to put a good product on the field and play for the people that has given so much to me.
I mean, how many times when we go grab a bite on Sunday after a game and you come limping in and walking in like barely able to go, like look like you needed a walker, and I'm like, are you okay, man? And you're like, yeah, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. Like somebody who looks like this should not ever play football again. And then all of a sudden the next week you're running for 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. And it's like, I don't know how he's doing it. And I really thought he's crazy. Like, man, give this guy a week off or something. But it's really unbelievable, when you talk about the guys who have the bumps and bruises who don't go to practice. And here you are, like, piecing everything together on a weekly basis, trying to just get to the next day and then excel them on Saturday and just kind of blocking it all out. So really, really, really amazing. And then, so yeah, you finish out your career. You're a conference champion. You got that done. You were that close to breaking the all-time rushing record at that point. So now the decision comes, what do I do? And, as we discussed, you and I, you always want to be a high school coach, but the great Tim Rebo, he retires, he steps down, and Coach Rybacke gets promoted to head coach, and all of a sudden you're getting a call to be the running back coach at Nicholls State. So talk us through that process and kind of the decision and what led to you becoming a college coach now instead of high school.
So I was fortunate enough to be able to work with you while I played um, at Nichols and Coach Kyle Lassane, and y'all letting me kind of come in and kind of help out the offense and the whole triple option aspect of things the last 3 years. So I always thought that's where my niche was. It was high school football. I got to, I'm saying practice, right? But get to practice being a coach because it is a little bit different than playing. Like coaching is a little bit different. So I'm like, all right, I want to go do the high school. That was the plan. Hey, I'm gonna try to get on with you guys and kind of continue to build that relationship that we've been growing over the last 3 years. And then I'll never forget. We finished the last game November 21st, I think was my last ever game. And then over that kind of Christmas break, kind of got a month to myself. Was kind of getting everything ready to go. And then Coach Ryback calls me and says, "Hey, Good, I need to talk to you about the team. I just kind of took over as the head coach. I kind of want to get your perspective of what has worked for us, what hasn't, so I know how to approach this thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll come talk to you. No problem." So Coach Ryback, he brings me in. We start talking and everything. And he goes, "Hey, like, you want the job?" And I just said, "Look, Coach, like, I really don't want to be a graduate assistant and all. Like, my call-in's high school football." He's like, "No, no, no. Like, you are the position coach. You're the running back, tight ends coach. You'll be the youngest position coach in Division One football." And kind of took me for a little bit, just because I never thought I would get an opportunity at that young of an age to be in that position. I really didn't. So I thought about it for a little bit. Spoke with my family, spoke with my fiance about it, just to make sure that it aligned with everything that we all wanted in life from a family aspect. Because college football is a whole different ballgame than high school. It is. It's a lot more time consuming, a lot more recruiting, a little bit more time away from your family. So just making sure all those values align. And then after talking to everybody, I said, "Hey, before I take the job, I need to know who the offensive coordinator it is." And then he told me it was Coach Gabe Fertitta, which me and him had our wars in high school when he was at Catholic of Baton Rouge. So the second he told me that, I said, "Where's the contract? Let me sign. I don't care how much it is. I'm in." So that was really, really cool of just how that all came about, and not really knowing that that was even an opportunity for me in my career and in my life to where I would have that opportunity. I kind of just always thought I'd be a high school coach the rest of my life and try to build a legacy somewhere. And then next thing you know, now I'm coaching running backs and tight ends at Nicholls State.
It's awesome, and you saying it, I'm so excited to dive into like your process and your week and just the hours you're putting in because for me as a mental performance coach, yes, of course I want to work with athletes. Yes, of course I want to work with Division One college athletes and high school athletes too. But my calling as of late has been to work with coaches because I don't want to see people and coaches go through the burnout and anxiety like I did. I want them to attack every day. I want them to stay on routine. So in terms of, your routine, the same thing you did as a player, stacking your days, the same thing you did as, when you went through that tornado as a player, that transition, how are you taking all that and shifting from that player mindset to now using it as a coach when you're putting in these hours and living along this structured, organized timeline?
A lot of it, believe it or not, is the same for me because I am 24 and I have a lot to learn in the coaching world in college football. So a lot of it is still me being in that tornado right now, right? Because I'm learning a lot of new things that I didn't know I was getting myself into. So every day is a constant challenge for me. But also, I think the biggest thing with coaches is understanding what you're really good at. So in the coaching world, right? Like you have to know what your value is. What are you really good at? What are you not really good at? And as a player, you still have to know that too. So what I'm in the process of is understanding what I'm good at. Like I really enjoy the recruiting process of it. I really enjoy the player connections and relationships that I can build because I play with 90% of these guys, right? I can recruit Nichols a little bit differently because I lived it. I've done it, it means more to me because I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it. So that's kind of been my mindset is, hey, don't forget your why. Don't forget why you came to Nicholls. Don't forget why you're in Thibodeau. And I kind of pour that into my coaching habits and my coaching style. And that is my why I do it. And so for me, I get to do the community outreach stuff, which I did a lot as a player here too. So I don't feel like I'm going to work. I just feel like I'm just extending my football career. And that's what has been very rewarding and very easy for me to make the transition to a coach now, is because I'm doing the same thing as a player, just more on a X's and O side of it,
Right.
and a more professional side, I would say.
Right.
But it has been very easy, especially with the guys that I get to work with every day. So.
Yeah. I mean, working with, Coach Ben Newman, I mean, what you're describing is your burn. Like your burn is when you wake up and that first thing that gets you out of bed and you just say, I'm going to attack this day. It's your combination of everything. It's your pride in who you are. It's what you've done for the city, what the city's done for you, what the school's done for you. And your burn is to just every day live to the standard that you set yourself up for. Same as me, my easy way to talk about my burn is my family. Like I want to provide for my family. I want to be a great dad. I want to be the best person I can be. But when I really dig into it, like my burn is I'm fulfilling the Grant Chassaw that's 19 years old that is done playing ball. And it's like, wow, you never got to play the college game you wanted to. You didn't have the career you wanted. You didn't go accomplish all these things you dreamed of. So now it's kind of like I have to fulfill it by climbing the ladder, stacking the days every single day, just, building this business and brand that, will satisfy that burn. And, you know, I think the most powerful thing that you said that I use in mental performance and what I try to tell my students and athletes is, how you reframed it. You just from changing the word work to whatever you want to call it. I'm ball, I'm going coach. I'm not going to work. I'm going coach today. I'm going to school today. I'm going to Nicholls today. You reframed it and that whole mindset shifted. And being able to just look at that mindset and change it and reframe is so powerful. I wish more people knew how to do it and could practice it and learn it the way I have and you have, to where when you wake up, you say, right before you start that, maybe complain, victim mindset, you're like, wait a minute, time out. Let me telescope out, see the situation. How grateful should I be? How lucky I am to be in the situation. You're the youngest college position coach in the country. I'm sitting here in my dream position, and I'm so thankful. So whenever people reframe, it's like, it's just so powerful. And if I could take any tool with me, that would be it. So let's talk about organization. How is your week structured, and what are the benefits from the way you organize it to, kind of somebody who's going with the flow?
So coaching, I've learned you have to be very detailed and very structured with your schedule. And I'm fortunate enough that our head coach, Coach Ryback, he does a really good job of giving us a weekly schedule, kind of what the expectations are of the week. And he kind of hits the bullet points. So he gives us some timetables, when we have our meetings, what is the focus for this week. And I kind of build my personal calendar from that. Kind of, he always says, busy doing what? And so I never want to be in a position where I'm just sitting in my office, right? So in college football, recruiting, I'm saying, is everything, but it never stops. No matter what time of the year it is, whenever you're always recruiting.
Yeah, it's not an off-season thing. It's just constant.
Yeah, 100%. So that's kind of where I focus a lot of my time at, is where, we have our main points that we have, but every morning I come in, always check my emails, right? Like, what's going on? That is my routine. While I'm making my coffee, I check my emails, get all that out the way, and then I'm always looking for the next guy, right? Like, how do I find that next guy? Where are my pipelines at? Where are the guys that I trust at? And then once we get into our offensive defensive meetings, then we get our little lunch break. After lunch, I don't touch recruiting. Mm-hmm. So I think a big part of that too is you set your time for recruiting, but you also pour into the players that are there currently. And so after lunch, all my focus goes onto them. So days that we don't have practice, after lunchtime, I'm always either meeting with my guys, whether it's from film or just meeting with them to see how their day's going, how are they mentally. So I always try to meet my guys once a week individually, just because my goal, not only as a coach, but as a person, I've always wanted to be in a position where I can impact the younger generation. Whether that was in high school, now it's in college. Now I just get to be that last source before they go into the world, right? So my job as a coach is not only to develop them as a player, but also as a person, but also make sure, hey, your grades are good, right? Hey, you're doing the right things in life. Hey, you're detailed, right? Like you're not lost. So that's my satisfaction that I enjoy the most out of my day is spending time with my guys that are in house. Yes, recruiting is important, but what you have in your house is more important. And you can't continue to grow that house if you don't have a steady foundation. And that's what's been rewarding with my schedule and how I've been able to build it.
And there's a reason, working and training under Brian Kane, there's a reason that time management organization is a foundation of mental performance. Like without it, it's just chaos. It's just total chaos. And you guys are doing a phenomenal job. I'm going to practice 3 times now. We've got a clinic, and it was just unbelievable. The organization and just the commitment to being, a foundation in the community is like no other. So we're going to kind of break it down and end it with this, through all your turmoil, the tornado that you went through, like we all go through, everything you've done from going through the injuries and everything we've talked about. If you had a clean slate athlete with a blank page, let's say 13, 14 years old, how would you describe the best way for them to build up that mental toughness, build up that resilience? Suppose they don't have the upbringing you did, but to slowly develop it to take them from high school to college to the rest of their life.
The biggest thing with that is I would tell those kids is to take chances. So everything that I've learned in my life that I apply today is all based off experiences. If you don't get that real life experience, you'll never understand what that situation feels like.
Yeah.
And so if I had a kid with a clean slate, I would tell them to take every chance that they get and be proactive in what you're doing, right? Like understand why you're doing it. Don't just do it. Oh, I'm going to go take a chance. Okay, sounds good, right? But understand why you're taking it and to be smart. Like in today's society, a lot of it is misconception of what the real world really is. And so if you do experience that, you go fulfill that, right? You understand, okay, this is why I did this. Will this benefit me in my life? And how will it benefit me? So that's the biggest thing is just always constantly learn and learn from your experiences. And I tell all my guys this too, like if you have to think about doing something, you probably shouldn't do it. And so that's what I would get out of that, and just stack the days, keep going, and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and just taking failure as a learning experience. Once you reframe that, you can't lose, right? So, all right, well, that wraps up this interview. This is episode 1 with Collin Guggenheim, future brother-in-law, Nicholls State running back, tight ends coach. Love you, brother. Thanks for doing this, and see you on the next episode.